me and my rhythm box. Hi everyone, I'm Ami Dang. I'm a musician, composer, sound artist based in Baltimore. I'm also working on a new venue, which is exciting, but a lot of work. Really excited to be here at Beyond Video. All right, I'm gonna grab this here step stool. Gonna start with some formative film memories. I remember having the Mulholland Drive DVD as a kid. David Lynch, a lot of you all might know, has worked a lot with this composer, Angelo Badalamenti, and I think at the time that I got really into this movie, I was super excited about Badalamenti's music, and I got kind of that helped me like get more into listening to like scores and soundtracks. So this is just a formative film for me. My family is Indian. I was born and raised in the Baltimore area, but my parents are from India, so I'll probably talk a little bit about some Indian films. I also have a background in Indian classical music and electronics, so I definitely listen to those things when I'm hearing that kind of soundscape in films. So here we are right next to also the Meera Nair section. She made Monsoon Wedding, which is a sweet movie. I wouldn't call it one of my favorite movies, but it is a very, very sweet film. But I also just want to point out, that some of her other films are definitely worth checking out. And also, very fun fact about Meera Nair for all of you who are following politics is Meera Nair is Zohran Mamdani's mom. Satya Jayat Ray is another amazing Indian filmmaker, and makes these beautiful art films. So not necessarily like the Bollywood type. I think a lot of people think of Indian film and they think only about Bollywood. So one of my favorite films of his is Pattar Panchali. This was his debut film about a family like living in small town India. But something that's also really notable about this is the score, which was composed and performed by Ravi Shankar. So it's all just beautiful sitar playing. Richard Linklater is an amazing film director. Waking Life came to the Charles Theater, I think when I was like 15 or 16, and it might have been one of the first films I saw at that theater. Visually, it's really stunning and just very unique, but it's also a film that's about people thinking about their own lives, questioning their lives and their existence. So, when I was like I said, I think 16 or so, watching this was very, it was a formative time. Again, lots of formative films in my past. Peter Greenaway, amazing filmmaker. But especially, I love this film, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. It's visually stunning. It takes you on this journey set in and around a French restaurant, and it's this beautiful, like, just super decadent location, but it's also, there's drama, it's a little bit of a thriller that made an impression. I'll just put it that way. This movie, Existence, is an amazing movie. I remember being in college, and some of my friends watched this in a Cinema Studies 101 class, and I was really bummed that I did not crash their class screening to watch this movie because everyone was like freaking out about how amazing it was and mind-blowing. And then I was back teaching at the same college I went to a few years ago, and I played this for my students. And at first, I played this for my music students, and they were like, why are we watching this movie? But then within like 15 minutes, they were just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, this is so exciting. Thank you for sharing this movie with us. So I'm sure you all know about John Waters, amazing filmmaker. He's one of the, people who's known beyond Baltimore for his work. Serial Mom is one that is especially kind of fun, but it is filmed all around where I grew up, which is kind of in the Loch Raven, kind of Towson area, near the Loch Raven Reservoir. So for me, this was just a fun one to watch, just to like watch for the settings and everything like that. My parents watched a lot of Bollywood films at home. My mom and my aunt would get together and like watch movies. So this is the India section. I think for any of you who have seen any Bollywood musicals, you'll notice that they are very long. So to be totally honest, there are very few Bollywood films that I have watched from beginning to end. I don't know if I've watched any of these from beginning to end, but maybe I will put in a plug for Dil Se. a film that's like visually just super beautiful, stunning. This one, I just jumped out at me because I actually sampled this, some of the songs in this quite a bit in some of my music. I did want to put a little plug for this film called Earth by Deepa Mehta. This film is not a classic Bollywood film. That's why I wanted to point it out. It is a really beautiful kind of drama, a period film set in 1947 India, which was when the British kind of moved out of India and India became its own country. So it's a beautiful story kind of set in a very tumultuous political situation. But Deepa Mehta created this trilogy. I'm not sure if all of her films were actually, but at least a couple of them, if not all of them, were actually banned in India because the Indian government does not, pretty heavily censors films. So watch this movie because a lot of people can't watch this movie. Oh, okay. Yeah. This movie called Go. I owned this exact DVD when I was 12 or 13 years old. And this was a time far before YouTube and streaming and all the things. So when I had DVDs as a kid, they got watched a lot. It's also a movie that involves a rave, and as someone who's currently working on it, opening a nightclub, that is also very fun and exciting. Oh, yes. Okay, so great movie, Liquid Sky. Pretty out there. I mean, in the description it says avant-garde. Art film, it's science fiction, early 80s, set in New York, very new wave. The aesthetic is very like David Bowie. And they have this like drum machine, and the song is like, me and my rhythm box, with all this very cool delay. So it's very fun if you're into really out there music. I'll just do that. There are multiple films called Jungle Book. You probably know that. And this is the version from 1942, directed by the Korda brothers. The thing that struck me about this movie is how this is a really classic film. If you're thinking a lot about Orientalism in film and in art, savage boy who's living in the woods. And then in this original story, these people like find him and try to like decolonize him essentially and like make him civilized. This film is worth watching maybe as an adult with that lens. There's a lot of brown face in this movie. So, watch it with that perspective. Todd Haynes directed the film Superstar. This is exactly as the caption suggests, the Karen Carpenter story, but it's told in a really unique way. Everybody in the film is portrayed by Barbies. I think that watching it now is really interesting because of how much has changed, and not changed is what I mean to say. So watch this, and you can get it here. For just like a couple years, I had this like white van, like the kind of van that's like, creepy people driving a white van, and it had a DVD player. And we were on tour, and this was just on the street, and it wasn't even marked. And so for like a year or two that I had that van, this was just the only DVD that was ever in the van. And it's Werner Herzog, so you should watch it. Okay, so I'm gonna take these 3 home. Ken Russell's The Lair of the White Worm. So at some point, I had this movie on VHS. And it's, I would call it a little bit of a cult classic. Just a great film, visually stunning, a story about an evil serpent situation, which I think is a kind of a trope, so you should watch that. These other 2 I've never seen. So this is The Ice Storm by Ang Lee, classic film. Ang Lee directed Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, many other movies you might be familiar with, like Life of Pi. But The Ice Storm is one of his early, acclaimed films that I just have never seen, so that's one. And then kind of similarly, this is a early silent film called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and it's also a film I've never seen. Something I like to do as a musician with silent films is sometimes kind of jam along while I watch them, and I've been involved in creating scores for silent films for live events in the past, so that can be a fun thing to do sometimes. Yeah. Thanks so much.